many of you want to go play in college? Awesome. How many of you are already committed to play in college? Alright, got our older ones back here. So going into college, what was your major, and then how have you kind of learned of how to to create Low Chamberlain, to create Be the Momentum? How did you learn how to do that?
My major was Women and Gender Studies, and I knew that it's basically, I mean, obviously schooling is extremely important. It's nice to have a degree, that's big time, but I knew that those personal relationships that I formed during college and being a college softball player really, really helped out just in the working world. So I knew it was important to capitalize on my name as quickly as I could post-college. The website, did my corporation, financial advisor, all that stuff just as soon as I could to make sure everything was lined up to capitalize as much as I could.
And hit 95 home runs, that helped.
Yeah, home runs helped a little bit.
And for those of you that don't hit home runs or don't have a name like Lauren Chamberlain, you too can be successful. I think Lauren has done an excellent job, and like she said, building her brand. And if you play youth softball, you know who Lauren Chamberlain is, right? But there's a lot of you out there that are in that 99%. And you can be successful too. And I think it's important from a business perspective that you find your niche. Like, what does the world need? And when I left college, I felt like the world really needed slapping help. And so that's what I did. And instead of building from my name, because it wasn't as large as Lauren Chamberlain's, even though I might have played for the Bandits, sorry, I don't want to say that too soon. But I built a company around something that needed to be fixed. So you guys all have some sort of passion that's burning inside of you, and you feel like you're really good at it, and you can capitalize on that. It doesn't necessarily have to come from your softball success. You can find other ways to leave your mark on the game.
I wanted to be a better speaker. I wanted to go out and take different classes. There's a ton of different, I think I did training the speaking voice, which sounds so simple and easy, but it was the best class I ever took because you were able to start learning different ways to speak in front of rooms like this, to speak in front of cameras. And it just so happened that I was able to get myself in front of the right people, like Lauren said. Again, I didn't have the name. I had a long blonde ponytail, which is probably the only thing people knew about me as a catcher, or that I was cat's catcher. I think a lot of people make jokes about that growing up, but and still do. But because of that, they at least knew something about me, and I was able to get myself in front. I was able to intern with the Longhorn Network, which is a branch of ESPN, and then you put yourself in front of people, and then you constantly you make yourself available, so you're able to be around the people you want to be like. You're getting a lot of good reps, you're getting a lot of good practice, and then the next thing you know, if you put in the time, there's a lot of chances you're going to get that opportunity, and you make the most of that.
For me, when I was in college, my major was Family Youth Community Science, and I know that's a mouthful. Everyone used to always say, find out what your brand is, find out what your niche is, and I had no idea what it was. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I knew two things. I knew I always wanted to help people, and I knew that I loved softball. So I try to always stay true to those two things. And so I continued to play, and I continued to do the one thing that I love so much, which was softball, and just trusting in that, and trusting myself, and trusting all the people that I surrounded myself with. A lot of doors opened up, and just kind of what Megan said, say yes to some opportunities that intrigue you, and that could be the difference maker. Say yes to something, and then you find out you hate it, and you quickly walk away from that. I coached college for 3 short months, and I found out that wasn't my thing that I wanted to do. So then I had to go back to the drawing board. So, when I was in your guys' shoes and I look at someone like ourselves up here talking, sometimes it looks like we have it figured out. I feel like I'm figuring life out as it goes.
And for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went in as well, so I did general study. I played at 6 a.m., by the way. I totally just didn't even talk about that stuff. But for me, I saw sport and I saw business. I was like, wow, okay, that sounds fun, right? Let me get into that. I had no idea what it was. And then I kept going back to school quite a bit and kept just finding my niche of what that was with sport management. And now it's turned into a career where I can work with USSSA and put on these events. But I think selfishly, this is why I like this panel, because when I was in your shoes, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I liked sports. And I knew I wanted to work in sports. And I didn't know that jobs existed. And so now as the sport has grown and we're on TV and our sport continues to get so much notoriety and public attention, there's actually jobs in sport. So I'm going to turn it into a question of, what are you guys, obviously you love the sport, but why are you so passionate about working in the sport and giving back to the sport?
I think the big thing for me is just leaving the sport better than I found it. The opportunity has grown like crazy for young athletes, especially female athletes. And anything that I can do to kind of help and help better your guys' future chances of making a living off the sport, I'm just going to do whatever I can to help. I have younger siblings. I have a younger sister who's actually here in this tournament. And I want her to have all the opportunities that I didn't have, or the opportunities that I had to try to fight for. And so I just think it's really cool to see all these strong female athletes and then just female advocates for the sport just really pushing for all the young female athletes. So that's really why I do it.
I do it to keep the dream alive. You didn't hear it. I do it to keep the dream alive, I think, at all different levels. We all have hope. We all have aspirations. Aspirations. Sorry. Got in pretty late last night on a flight and early this morning. But
Yeah, I think it's looking out there and seeing your guys' face. You're eager. You guys are so good. You guys are so much better than when I was your age. The sport is so much better. It's so much more exciting. And I get to tell your guys' story on a different level, on the other side of the TV lens. And when I'm watching these games, they're really good games and they're really exciting. So that's why I keep wanting to do it. And then on a different level, I feel like I'm trying to keep my hand like in the cookie jar with the pro fast pitch, with NPF, and trying to figure out different ways to make it better and stronger. So eventually, we finally will get that 10 or 15 team mark, and we can make something for you guys to dream to hopefully be the professionals that you see on this stage. Because if I give up, then what? Then who's left to keep pushing, right? And I have to make sure somehow that I have to constantly remind myself that whatever comes out of my mouth about that goes on to the girls down on the left of this stage. And because when I leave, I don't want them to have a bitter taste in their mouth. I have to constantly be better for them so that eventually, in a long, 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 long time, when they do retire, because we need to keep you guys in the game, then they want to have the passion and they want to do it for you guys so that you guys have a place to play.
I think too, it's what makes softball so special, honestly. I mean, what other sport is allowing you guys to have an opportunity and us to have an opportunity? I mean, the coach of all coaches right here, professional softball players. I mean, we have a game tonight. Not gonna lie, we're out here, taking the time for you. You guys are in the room with us. We're having an honest conversation about softball. I mean, what other sport is doing this? So it's just cool to be a part of softball and how accessible everything is. And there's so much knowledge, and everybody's so willing to share it. And I really don't think you're getting that in another sport. And that's why I think the softball world, we always call it that softball family. It really is. And it's just everybody's so tight. And I think that's why our sport's growing as rapidly as it is.
And I was, oh, I'm sorry. You go.
I've been involved in the game for over 50 years as a young girl that was just trying to fit in. And I think what I love about it is what you enjoy right now with your little bubble of friends is what we're enjoying as adults. It actually never changes. And what drives, I think, all of us is this idea that you're surrounded by people that care about you. And I'm multiple sports helping, and there is no sport like softball. And I think when you look at all of them and how they've made it to the top and sustained that success, as different as we all look and our paths are different, what we all share is this fanatical desire to get a little bit better every day. But all of us still have that awkward inside doubt, like, I hope I'm enough, I hope I'm giving enough, just like you. And because we all share that, we're in this together. And it really comes down to the relationships that you're building with your friends, and then we all grow up and we want to stay in the sport. And that's what makes softball really special, is the connection that we have that allows us to say, I don't want to go outside of the general public. I want to stay in the softball bubble. And I think that's the reason why I stay in the game to this day.
I'm going to say something completely different than what I had planned, because I just love what Sue just said, because it's so true. I mean, we've all been in the softball world for such a long time, and it just sticks with you, and it gets inside you, and you never want to leave it. And sometimes it's hard to really explain it and describe it, but just being up on this podium right now, Megan is one of my closest friends. I met her when I was 23 years old, and we were just young kids playing professional softball, and we continue to grow up together and become, working together. The same thing with Jamie. I met her, I played against her in the World Series. She beat my team twice to end my season. Like, never thought that I'd ever want to see her face again.
That's another clinic.
But then we kind of get thrown into the softball world again together, and we find out that we have similar interests and we have similar goals of trying to grow our sport. And now here we are, speaking to you guys where we once were. And then, Lauren Chamberlain, she played at Oklahoma University after my older sister played. So like the first time I got to meet her, I was like, dude, you're awesome, and I love you. And then Sierra, I met her when she was a freshman at Michigan. In the fall, I was playing professional softball. She hit a home run off of us, and I remember her swing. I was in left field, it went over my head. And I remember seeing, I was like, dang, this girl's gonna be really good. And I went up to talk to her afterwards, and I thought like she would think I was a crazy person. And I was like, you're awesome. I'm glad I got to meet you like before you became famous. So the sport is so big, but it's also so small. And Sue's so right. It is totally about the relationships that you build that will start opening doors for you guys.
Can we just take a second to talk about how 98% of the conversation that we just had nothing to do with how good you are at softball? And I think that's so important, is you guys focus so much on getting low while you're fielding your ground ball, making sure your hands stay whatever, right? Whatever your coaches tell you. But everything that's coming from this panel up here has absolutely nothing to do with how good you are at softball. And I think that's really important for you guys to understand at your age, is that your future, as much as we're all fighting for it to be livable, to be the best professional softball player that you can be, I've been to that level and I didn't make a living. And that's exactly why I am in the business side of our sport, trying to help that grow. And I think it's important for you guys to understand that it's not always about how good you are at softball, but the relationships and everything else that you're building, your character, all that type of stuff is what you want to take away from the sport.
Does anybody have any questions out there? Put you on the spot. Come on, I don't want to ask all the questions.
So, as a team of 13-year-olds primarily, what at this stage should they start doing to implement at this stage for branding, websites, social media, those types of things? What can they do now at this age?
So for you guys who didn't hear it, the question was for a team that's mostly 13-year-olds, what can they start doing now at their age to help set themselves up?
I mean, I think one of the biggest things is, and this is probably one of the hardest things, is finding out who you guys are. You can't build a brand until you know what that brand's going to be. And one of the biggest things that you just said is social media. Social media can make or break you, especially at this young of age. And I'm sure you guys have, I hope, have sat down and talked and have people talk to you guys about how important it is of what you're putting out there. Of course, making sure your accounts are private, but there's always ways to be worked around that. And so making sure that you're being smart with what you put out there and who you want to see what you're putting out there. We've all had mistakes that have been made because of that, and because social media is at the forefront, you need to make sure that who you eventually, like, for example, whoever you guys think the best softball college coaches out there right now, do you want them to see what you're doing on the weekends? Like, is it something that you want that to represent yourself? I think that's the biggest number one thing when it comes to that age group, is just trying to find out who you are, who you want to try to be, and making sure that you're putting yourself your best foot forward on social media.
I just like to address some really personal things that are a challenge for this generation. Is I would love for the student athlete to work on their eye contact. I want you to be able to share with me what's important to you and your character. Character is a big word. Can you articulate what that means? I'm a college coach, so I'm going to ask you, what does character mean to you? And then what you're going to be able to say is how I think, how I speak, and how I act. How I think, speak, and act, that's your character. And then for you, you've got to be able to tell me how you've mastered failure recovery. because we all think we're failures for it, which will be the strongest skill you have when you're doing the business, is to be able to say, I played fast pitch. I had to battle hitting a rise ball. I had 23/60ths of a second. And you say that in an interview. So I've mastered failure recovery. I've mastered it. And that's a separator. So before you talk about your brand, your social media, make sure you learn how to have eye contact with me as a college coach. And when I ask you a question about your character, don't look at your mom and dad. Continue to look at me and tell me how you think, how you speak, and how you act, and talk about failure recovery, and I promise you, you'll celebrate yourself.
13, delete your Twitter. Like, what do you mean? Get off of Instagram. Go live your life. Shoot.
I know, there's a lot of followers across this stage on all of our social platforms, and there are so many days when I would rather be without Instagram and without Twitter. So I think if you're not depending on it right now, stick with it as long as you can. And I think there's, like Coach Sue said, there's so many things that are we're not worried about the Twitter. Keep everything good to go, but we're not looking at the Twitter, we're not looking at the Instagram as much as we're looking at you. You know what I mean? So that stuff will handle itself. But don't get so wrapped up in that stuff, because it's just, there's so much else going on outside the phone. It's just, start with that.
Another question?
If I can, how many of you were multi-sport athletes, and how long did you maintain multiple sports?
Great question. So she asked how many were multi-sport athletes and how long?
How long were you able to, was the pressure at 13 to specialize, or was the pressure at 17? When did it kick in that you definitely needed to hone in, or else you felt like you might miss an opportunity?
This will be interesting because we're kind of an age variation.
As a 3-sport athlete, volleyball, basketball, softball, going into my junior year is when I knew that softball was going to be my route, and so I took away the ankle braceing sport. I'm a little clumsy, so I didn't need to be doing that anymore. I was a 1-sport athlete, and I'll put this out there mainly because of finance reasons. My parents basically said, pick one sport that you love and stick with that, and softball.
I played basketball and softball growing up all the way through high school, and I actually wanted to play both in college, but at the Division I level, the seasons just didn't match up. So I chose softball, but the moment that I chose softball and I stopped playing basketball, the rest of my career I ended up with 6 surgeries. I think that's something that is definitely not a coincidence.
This is a little irrelevant. So I played multiple sports in high school. I played 3 sports in college. I was on the surf team. I played rugby. I played rugby because I weighed 175, so I didn't miss a meal, promise you. But I think what's important for those of you that are parents, treat your daughter, it's your case, what's comfortable for her. College isn't about shining the brightest light and having the D1 coaches. Remember, there's 300 Division I schools approximately. There's 1,400 college opportunities. 80% of financial aid opportunities are beneath Division I. So if we could remember that take it, mom and dad, you know your daughter best. Go case by case. If she wants multiple sport, let her do it. The key for the adults in the room is to find the fit and line up those schools and make a connection. Not shooting up a flare that we think she's all in. Because if we don't work that way, the college coach doesn't work that way. We're looking for the fit. So some quick tips on that. So full back, both sides in rugby.
I don't want to follow that, but I grew up in a really small town in Texas, so there weren't a lot of opportunities in regards to travel. So I played every sport imaginable. I played boys baseball, I played soccer, I ran track, I swam. I didn't play softball until high school, and I just got pretty lucky that I thought I was going to college in soccer, and so that didn't change until I was a senior in high school. But I'm kind of old now.
I played soccer. That was my first sport, was soccer, until 10, and I was softball, and then I'm a stallion, so I ran track. And then, believe it or not, I was in the 100 and the 200 and whooped them.
I've seen you run around
No,
the
like,
bases,
in
not
their face too, they'd be like, easy money, and it was like a bag for me. I got it every time. I tried out for volleyball, and I was convinced I was gonna make it, and I didn't make it past the first day. I was like, you'll regret this. But yeah, I was mainly just, I knew softball was my sport. I think I was just an active kid, so I wanted to stay active. But yeah, I was also a burnout though. Like 12 years old, I quit softball. And I think that's important to share. I just was over it. I wanted the sleepovers. I didn't like the tan lines. I wanted to go to a movie on a Friday night and not have to wake up and, drive 3 hours to go play softball. That's just where I was at 12 years old. And the best thing my parents could have done for me, honestly, was say, okay, like, they listened to me. And they listened to what my wants and my needs. And they didn't just, continue to force me to play softball. And I stepped away from the game for about a little less than a year, and I missed it so much, and I wanted to get back in it with me now, So I think the biggest blessing that I had in my parents is that they always listened to me, and they put their pride aside and said, okay, like, even if my daughter's not in a sport right now, I'm okay with that too. So that was big for me.
At a competitive level, I played softball and basketball, but I was always playing outside. I mean, at your age, I was such a tomboy. I was outside all the time. I was playing tennis. I really liked tennis. And I also actually played in high school. And I also did track. But for financial reasons, my dad asked me to just pick one sport, and it was between basketball and softball, and I ended up going with softball.
Anybody else? Question?
So y'all already got an edge in the softball post-college. I guess for our kids out here that may or may not be able to find it down the road, how do you spread going to college and the education on, not necessarily the places?
At the end of the day, it's a drip, drip, drip message. As an adult, as a dad, as a coach, we can't sit them down and just lecture them for an hour and say, okay, got it. It's just over time, and everything that you're teaching them about how they behave, how they treat each other, these are all things that you need to refine in order to get to college. And when you do get to college, you have to remember that this sport can open doors not just for a scholarship, but there's opportunities to be a walk-on athlete, just the opportunity to get into a school. You may be not the best girl on your team, but you may be the smartest. Well, just being a softball player that's really smart may take you into an Ivy League school, even in a smaller role. So please remember that, the women that are on the stage, they represent 0.00001%. If they were major league players, they would be signing these $20 million contracts, which is fascinating. I hope I live long enough to see that happen. But at the end of the day, all of us are doing this to lay a foundation for our education, to be our springboard for life. And none of you need to leave this room worried about not knowing your passion and not knowing what you're meant to do. As you heard many of them say this, it took me a while to figure that out. But you can go out that door and say, I'm going to have the fun zone everywhere I go. Be the person that knows before it's known that we're going to have fun. It's 0-0 on the first, we're going to have fun. 0-0 on the fifth, we're going to have fun. 0-0 on the 10th, we're going to have fun. And you're going to be the fun zone leader. Because people that can change the temperature of a room when you go on into college, those are the game changers. And those of you that watch that World Series, Florida State mastered the fun zone, and then a game broke out in that order.
I think it's really important to understand there's a statistic out there, and I'm not sure if I'm getting this right, but like 95% of female CEOs have played sports. And I think that's just something to really keep in mind, that softball is your avenue. It should not be your destination. Like Sue just said, the 0.001% are making a living down on the left there, and it is awesome. And I hope that there's a lot of you in here that can follow in their footsteps. But right now, that's just not the reality for the majority of people. So your education is your most important thing. I had an opportunity to go to a few, higher level schools, but I chose Northwestern because I was the smartest kid on my team. And I took pride in that. I knew that my brain is what was going to take me farther than anybody else. And now I've set myself up to be able to use my brain to impact the game from a standpoint where I'm sitting next to these women that are doing the same thing. And that's, to me, more rare than being good at softball. softball. And I think the better your grades, the more doors that will open for you.
And softball teaches you so many things that you wouldn't, you'd be surprised. I mean, so many pressure situations come within the game, and you know, bases loaded, 2 outs, you have to score that run. That situation sets you up for success down the road. There's so many times where I have to go into a meeting in the business world surrounded by, you know, like ex-MLB players and like convince them of something, and it's very intimidating. And a lot of times I tell myself, if you can play on the stage at the World Series and get really big time hit and, you know, get so close to failure and then succeed, you can go into a room and talk about something that you love and you're passionate about. There are so many learning experiences when it comes to this sport, and it's not just how to hit a home run.
Actually, I'd be interested to hear all you guys, because there are statistics that say elite female athletes become our leaders. So kind of twofold, why do you think it's important to have female leaders? And then what skill do you have that you learned as a softball player that you use the most today in the business world?
I think it's important just because there can never be enough of us. I mean, I'm the oldest of 4, and I'm constantly preaching that to my younger siblings. My brother as well, just being a leader on and off the field, and just in life in general. My mom has this quote, always do the right thing even when nobody's watching. And I just think it's really important, and it just tells a lot about yourself when you're able to lead and lead other people and make other people around you better. What was the second part?
What do you use the most when you're intangibles?
Probably my leadership. And that was something that I didn't fully understand until probably my junior year of college. And that's what I mean by making people better around you. I didn't really understand how to do that. And once I figured that out, it helped with every single aspect of my life. Once I graduated from Michigan, I was able to not only lead, like, for example, I have my agent, and I really had to kind of put my foot down with a lot of things that I maybe would have been uncomfortable with doing in the past, and really sticking up for myself and not settling, and, you know, not letting people lowball me. And I actually talked to Laura about this the other day. There's been plenty of times where during camps and other things that I've done where people tried to take advantage of me and tried to make a ton of money off of me and kind of just leave me out there to dry. And at some point somebody has to put their foot down and say that it's not okay. And I think that's something that Lauren and I really pride ourselves in, just because we're not going to settle. And we're doing that because we don't want that to be the norm. We don't want that to be what people think is okay to do. And so I just really pride myself in being that leader and sticking up for myself.
I think it's important to have female leaders, honestly, because now players are able to look up to us and say we're their favorite, you know. And when we were younger, we might have been looking up to men, which is, they're still idols, you know. But to be able to say, oh, my favorite ever, my favorite businesswoman, my favorite CEO is a woman, I think that's super important. I think what I bring is just passion for life. Man, I'm so freaking pumped to be here. And I just think I can really, I think I can bring out the best version of people. I love doing that. I love making people feel good about themselves. So when I'm in a business setting, I feel like I can get everybody to bring their best self to the table and freaking accomplish something. You know what I mean? So I just think the passion that I have for softball, for life, for really anything, I'm super easy to get excited. I just get excited about things, and I understand opportunities, and I like to seize the moment. So I think I can bring people up with me.
I think what's important when you're dreaming about what you can become, you need to see that dream. You need to see that woman in front of you and say, wow, her path looks similar to mine. I think I can do it too. This is going to fall on your generation, because my generation and the women on this stage, they have been brought up where less than 4% of women are in corporate leadership roles on boards. That's a really small percentage, right? So we've got to flip the script. Because leadership, great leadership that creates change, understands the people that are beneath them that they're leading. So we have a country that's not taking 50% inventory, the female's inventory, the female's insight, the female's knowledge. And once we start to do that, America's really going to start to kick butt. And it's going to take time. Change takes time. But what you can do right now is master your performance skills. It doesn't matter where you live, because excellence, your personal excellence, doesn't matter where you live, how much money's in your pocket, who you know. And so you can work on those skills right now, but it's great to have that leadership out there that is a female, that looks like you, that acts like you, and has those same insights that you do to set you on your path.
I think for me, the biggest thing with women leaders is that I feel like sometimes I get really frustrated that I feel like we're sometimes in the same position that we've been in for the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, especially when it comes to the league itself, but to not get discouraged by that and to understand that there are so many people that have fought before you to be able to have you sit in a room and listen to a panel like this, and just to continue to push that envelope for those that have paved that path before you. And in terms of, what I might bring to the table, I think I'm a really good listener. Like, I am involved in this panel and listening to these answers just as much as you are, and I know that I don't have all the answers. And I think that's what makes me good at my job, is that I'm willing to listen to opposing opinions on everything, because I know that that's how I'm going to get the most well-rounded perspective of what an issue might be. So I highly suggest you open your ears and know that you don't know it all, and that's okay to admit that.
I'm going to go back, I feel like, to the second part of the original question, and it's what has softball done? I think, what have I learned from softball to make, I guess, to utilize in the everyday world? And I think the number one thing that I really held on to was goal setting. And you guys do that at an early age, right? Whether it is individual or as a team, where do you guys set your goals? And then the older I got, it's not just your biggest goal, right? You put that big three goal out there. I'm going to win a national championship. Underneath that, I'm going to be a Big 12 championship. And you just start learning to think that way. That's absolutely how I think in the everyday world. I put this big goal out there. I think I have this. It was at the World Series. What do you want to do, Brooke? I'm going to take Holly Rowe's position. Now, she's a reporter. I'm an analyst. 2 different jobs now. But I put it out there, and then I constantly did things to get myself to get there. And that's exactly what you guys do at a young age. You set your goals. And it might be a certain team you want to play for. Well, to do that, you have to make sure that you're the best player. If you want to throw out as many different runners, you set little goals, and you continue to do that into the everyday world. And I think that's something I really held on to. I'm going to mess up the way you said this, Sue, but it is mastering failure. Is that what you said?
Failure recovery.
Thank you. Failure recovery.
Master.
Yeah, because that is, you're going to get into the everyday world. You're going to, instead of teammates, they're your coworkers, right? And you have to learn to work with one another. And you learn that by being on a team. You learn that you might not get the sell that you want. I know Francesca here takes her sales very serious. Don't talk to her like you don't talk to her on the back if she's on deck. But she uses that same skill set when she goes out to get the sell. And so I think those are the things that you guys learn on being on a team right now is how do you work well with others? How do you get over the strikeout and move on so that your next AB gets the home run? And that's how you take it into that next level into your adult.
I am someone who, I mentioned my older sister before, she played softball at OU, she was an All-American, and in my eyes she was like the most BA female there was, and that's who I always wanted to be like. But I'm very competitive, as Megan just said, and so I wanted to be like her, but I had to be better. And so that kind of got instilled with me with like work ethic. And that means maybe you don't want to be on TV, you don't want to be the one talking the whole time, maybe you have a passion for directing. Maybe you have the passion for getting behind there and you're like, man, I want to be the next Meg Aronowitz, who she is the coordinating producer for softball, all of college softball. So she has this vision, and she took softball to this whole nother level on TV because of her passion for softball. And that's what's cool about, I think, other things that are on this stage here. It's not just the 1% that we're talking about. It's not just the one that's standing behind the camera. You can be a producer, you can be the camera person, you can be an assistant, you can be official stats. Maybe you love numbers, and that's where you want to see it, and you think you can have a different way to portray how good this player is, and if you type it out the right way and you put a nice little graphic, maybe you're a graphic designer out there, and that's how you want to give back to the sport. There's just, because of how big the softball game has gotten, how exciting you guys are to watch, right? Because
because Jesse Warren's over there diving and making a great play, and because of social media and because of TV, that thing got so many hits, now she's up for an Emmy. Like, it's just amazing what we all do here and how we show that, right? It's not because if we didn't have the opportunity, that play happens, no one sees it. Then she's not up for an Emmy, sorry. But you have to see it, you have to show it, you have to retweet it, and it takes more than just her making the play and one camera. It took 14 different camera angles. It took the girl on the other end catching him. Sorry, I don't know your first name, but it takes everything, and I think that's the biggest thing about what TV has done, has allowed everyone at so many different levels to have a different platform to show how great the game is.
Especially too, every time, you know, we get assigned to a certain tournament or a weekend to cover, the number one thing everyone says to me, you know, they work in the booth. And Megan's so right, like, we're like the puppets. We think we're a big deal, and then we walk in and like, there are so many things happening behind the scenes, and that we just have to kind of follow along. But you talk to every single person, whether they're the graphic designer, whether they're the AD or the producer, the director, and the first thing they always say to me is they go, man, I really love softball. It is so fun to watch. You know, don't tell anybody this, but it's better than baseball. And I go, Dad, like, welcome to the world. Like, we get it. But that's why there's so much coverage, is because you tune in to watch any softball game, and within 2 innings, you're hooked. You know, the play that Jesse made, I mean, people, I'm not saying people make those plays all the time, but girls do put their heart on the field, and they make fabulous plays, and then when ESPN is able to broadcast that and show the passion and the love just on the TV screen, that gets inside of you. And that is why the sport has been able to get so much coverage, is because those plays are finally getting so much love, and that passion and the love is just being streamed out just as much as the games are. And we're adaptable. I think that, and you've been in a big part of this as a college coach. It's a 2-hour game, it's not a 4-hour game, right? And we're staying ahead of the time. So I think that's one thing that's being great about Fast Pitch, is when someone comes to us and says, hey, we really need you guys to speed up the game. And how can we? What are ways that we can do it that doesn't mess with the game, that's not altering the game, but how do we do it to make that viewership? It was our coaches that understood, you're right, we need to be more visible, we need to make these changes. And so I think that's another really special part about our specific sport. It's been under fire, it's been tested, but I mean, the numbers don't lie. And because maybe we're adding that 60 seconds and 90 seconds between innings, we're taking away all the frou-frou high fives. That's fun, but it's the bigger picture. How do we get this sport even bigger? And it's making sure that we're still entertaining. And I think it's a constant battle for baseball right now. Oh, you can't change the game that's been around for 100 years. And, you know, it takes 2 minutes between each pitch, and that's tough. It's hard to watch. I'm sure some of you guys had a hard time watching the College World Series because you were having 9-inning games go 4 hours. And if you can step back a little bit and trust that we're not trying to ruin our beautiful sport, it's the betterment. It's because everyone wants things now. I think we're special in that way. We're just adaptable.
I'm going to just go right off of your coattails on this. Just quick history for those of you that wonder how did it happen? How did it flip? How did the door open? It all comes back to relationships. Softball is unique. Emily works for the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association, the leadership in that association. This is a group of people that we want our club coaches to be involved with. They met with television and said, what do we need to do? And television built this relationship with softball. But how did we first get in? It was actually, we've got to be indebted to ice hockey. Pro ice hockey went on strike in the 80s. There was an open TV window. ESPN did not know what to do. Okay, they're doing that fast pitch thing. We're going to give them an hour and 25 minutes. And the rest is history. We play in dimensions that are women specific. We're not playing on the boys baseball field and with baseball based dimensions, so our game is fast. But it comes back to the relationships. ESPN comes back to the leaders in the NFCA and says, the game, we need more hitting. Because back when I was coaching early in the day, they were 1-0, not enough. They all met, went back to ESPN, we'll change the color of the ball. The hitter now will be able to see the yellow ball. We know that technology, it works in tennis. 10 years later, hey, would you be willing to move the mound back? So yeah, we're going to move the mound back. So there's great lessons for all of you girls in this room that great talent's flexible. Softball says, it's the people that make the sport great. We can be flexible. Just like you can be flexible this week. Softball's flexible. We changed the color of the ball. We moved the mound back. Now we've got time constraints, so we stay in that magic TV 2-hour window. So those are a message for all of us. But in the end, if I can just take 1 minute, because I can be the one who can be the big fat blabber bragger. Our sport is special because of you, coaches out there that are volunteering with your daughters and your student athletes. And what we need from you is we want that relationship with you. And if you're thinking, God, what can I do? I'm just a little team from Texas. Maybe every team in this room can commit to following a team. Follow a pro team. Follow a player. Their digital currency, their values attached to their social media accounts. Maybe have just one day, let's have a social media ad day. So we can add all of our pro players so we can get connected to them. And maybe you commit to saying, hey, let's adopt a pro team. What do you say you adopt a pro team this summer? What does that mean? We're just going to follow them. We're going to support them. If they're within 1,000 miles, we're going to go have a field trip to find them. And that's how we continue to build the sport, because our sustainability at the top is completely reliant on you. You nourish us. It's not the other way around. So we're super indebted that you're sacrificing your time this morning in championship mode. But I promise you, the game will pay you back this weekend. That miss hit is going to fall for a base hit.
And I think Sue makes a really good point. I don't know if any of you saw, but Adam Silver, the commissioner for the NBA, he spoke about the WNBA a little bit ago, and he said that the biggest reason that the WNBA is faltering is that we don't support it. We, as in our own people. Think of how many times you might go, we're in Kansas City. Okay, how many times you go to a Royals game instead of going to a Pride game? Or how many times you take your family to go see a Cubs game instead of going to a Bandits game? And those, your money talks. And as much as we all want to go see the Cubs, don't get me wrong, you can still take your entire family to go see a Bandits game for under $40. But we don't do it. We don't support with our money. And as much as social media is a really big thing, and it helps with their value, come endorsements and things like that, it's not getting us to where we want to go because your butt isn't in the seat. And in order for sponsorship money to come, we need butts and seats. And in order for us to continue to get on a platform like ESPN, we need butts and seats. And so until that money talks and women are supporting women are catty. We're catty. We step on each other's throats to get higher. And I don't know why we do that, but if we can support each other instead of talking about each other behind our backs, you know we do it, then we might actually be able to continue growing together as one sport.
All right. Well, I do want to break out here in a little bit. I know we're probably getting tired and want to move around, but I've got one question that probably a lot of you have as well. Has anybody seen recently ESPN The Body Issue? All right. So you've seen Lauren. So, I'm speaking probably for multiple people, but I'd like to hear just what went into it for you personally on the decision to do it, and then what's the reaction been? Has it surpassed your expectations? How's that overall? What's the last month been like?
Man, Body Issue! That was crazy! So I woke up to a couple texts that said congrats on Body, and I was kind of waking up, I'm like, come on, what? Are you serious? And this is something, personally, that was a dream thing. It couldn't probably ever happen, but it would be so cool if it did. You know what I mean? You always see your favorite, Serena Williams on the cover that one time. I was like, oh my gosh, she did that. You know what I mean? So when I saw the text, I was like, yes, I have to. Immediate answer, yes. I got it to him within an hour. And then it started to kind of sink in, I'm about to be naked for everybody to see, literally everybody to see. And I was talking to my mom about it, and I was talking to my dad about it, and I had a couple solid conversations with my dad. That was probably the hardest part about it. But I think once everybody that cared about me and everybody that I was concerned about their opinion said that they got over the part about me being naked, because that wasn't what it was about. It wasn't, oh my gosh, she's naked, how inappropriate. You know, I know that was a big thing for especially softball parents. That was probably my biggest concern. The way it was done, I wanted it to be the message. I wanted it to be me showing what a large majority of young girls, women my age, and just women in general look like. And it was a big message to share that there's not one body that does one thing in one way. No one body thinks one way, acts one way, talks one way, looks one way, thinks one way. There's not one way to do it. So whether you're Sierra Romero, who is one of the shortest, smallest on our team, and hits tanks, bombs, or somebody like me, the stallion, legging out triples every once in a while, you know what I'm saying? But it just goes back to my point that there's not one universal way to do anything. And that was my thing. I immediately said yes, because I knew that I could make some type of impact. And whether this completely kicks the door down, I mean, we've got so much more to go, but if I can make a little dent in it that makes it easier down the road, just for some young girl to feel like, oh my God, like, that's me, like, I see myself in her. And I get so emotional about it because I've struggled, I'm gonna get emotional right now, but I've struggled with myself for so long in this body. And I was at war with myself for so long. And for it to have, ESPN be like, look, like, we're changing. 10 years, this is 10th anniversary this year, that's why it was also so cool. But at the beginning magazine, it was the bodies we want. It was all about who's super cut up, who's sexy, the bodies we want. It rivaled Sports Illustrated. That's why they did it. And the tide is changing, and it's still the bodies we want, but man, it's just the bodies, the celebration of real, the celebration of so many different things. I saw Prince Fielder, and I was like, they put him on a cover. That's amazing. And if you just feel like, wow, someone else is like me, and to see if I could have exuded any type of confidence that some younger girl could say, wow, like, she looks so beautiful and happy and was having such a good time on set, and she was completely naked. My insecurities did not go away because of that shoot, let me tell you. Okay? But there has been, I sometimes got caught up. I had a bad day the other day. I was looking through some comments of, some things that people said. And those internet trolls do not care about our beauty. But the overall response has been so much more positive than negative, and I'm so happy I did it. And I think just from softball players to softball parents, softball players in here, I hope you understand why I did it and the message that I was trying to send, and just to continue to push, all inclusive. There is not one way to do anything.
When I was your age, I was a little chunky monkey, right? And I was never comfortable with my size. My pants never fit, they fit my legs, my butt, my waist was too big. When I sat down, my buttons popped open. Like, I hated all of that. And I thought, when you did that, and you broke that barrier, you touched so many girls, because I think what's important as adults, don't try to pass a moral judgment on the decision to do it. Really celebrate the message is your girls are beautiful enough. If they're big bones, little bones, if they're big girl club, little girl club, you are beautiful enough. And that's her message, and that's what's so powerful about it, the people that you touch. And I'm going to ask you to don't let anybody on your social media world tear you down. Everybody has their small bubble. Your family, your 5 best friends. That's it. And for you to step out knowing that we knew that there's going to be a third of society that's going to go, oh, that's inappropriate. Don't judge that. Because her message is, we're beautiful enough. And to have her send that, I can't think of anybody in our game that's more equipped to handle this, to do it, and I speak for so many college coaches, we are extremely proud of what you did, so thank you for that. Thank you.
I'd like you to stay, we're going to break up, but before we go into that, just as panelists, I'd like to, maybe your last message that you want to leave and that you want to give back to these athletes. what is that message, and what would you like to say to them as the future of our sport?
Just have fun. Love what you do. I remember when I was in these tournaments, I was having the time of my life. Just enjoy each other and win some games, get competitive. I'm going to be out of the field, hopefully watching as many games as I can, especially in the tournament. So I'll be keeping up. But I want to see some good games. Just be passionate and just love it.
When you leave here, remember everything that we talked about. Don't just say, oh, we checked that off the list, made mom and dad happy, let's go play some softball, right? To make change in anything, you have to be diligent and get out of your comfort zone. So these things that we talked about, you're like, oh, that can maybe I don't want to do that yet, just yet. Start to think about those things and make those conscious decisions. I'm going to be a little bit better today. I'm going to make that next right decision. I heard that one time and that was like mind-blowing, like life-changing. Make the next right choice. And that'll get you on any path that you want to go on. Just make the right next choice.
I just want to say that you've already earned the right to be confident in yourself because you pick softball and you sustain it. It's one of the most difficult games to master. And this week, the message is just remember it's good old softball with their party dress on. When you put your uniform on, you're celebrating that you've earned the right to have a blast. So you work hard Monday through Friday. Now this week, you put on your party dress, game day, have a blast. It's 60 feet, turn left for you and for all of them.
I don't want to speak for college coaches, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what you do away from the ball matters more than what skill set you're doing in the box. I feel like coaches can teach you things that you need to know, how to throw, how to hit, blah, blah, blah. They can't teach you how to be a good person. They can't teach you what character means. They can't teach you how you treat your teammates. So I think all those things that you're doing off the field matter more, and be aware of that. Make the person next to you better, and that will shine your light as well.
I'm pretty much just going to preach on what everyone else was saying. When I was your guys' age, I would put so much pressure on myself to be the very best and to stand out, to make the big plays and to make the routine plays as well. And that pressure sometimes would beat me up, that I have to take a step back and be like, why did I play this game? And it's because I love it and because it's fun. We forget about that FUN part. And so when you do get the opportunity to put that uniform on and step on the field, have fun with your teammates. It's just like Coach said, it's a party. And it's a party you never want to leave. So to have fun, get dirty, and just go all out.
Be a good teammate. They said everything else, but be a good teammate. We're all in this together.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being up here, and we're going to continue it.